Ready to hit the pause button on your parenting fails? Ready to feel better about your parenting? Welcome to Parenting Pause, the podcast, where all of you is welcome. Enjoy our new format, offering you weekly inspirations to support you in being the parent you want to be. I'm Leslie Potter, the founder of the Pure Joy Way, a mother, a parent coach, and a fellow traveler on this journey to wake up in our parenting. And I believe together we can make this a better world for ourselves and our kiddos. Hello, lovies. Today, let's talk about how challenging it is to stay conscious and aware of our part in the dynamic with our children. I know when I first turned towards more awareness in my parenting, I honestly thought that maybe I'd found the magic bullet. I was sure that I'd figured this parenting thing out. Well, that's when things started going a little wonky. Because in thinking that I'd figured out how to get my daughter to behave in the way I wanted her to behave so that I didn't feel discomfort, I started convincing myself that if I could stay regulated, act the right way, and reflect her big feelings, then surely she would be the model child who never acted out or threw fits, right? Well, it didn't work out that way. So here I was feeling so much guilt and shame because she was acting out and she was throwing fits. And I had no idea what my part was in the dynamic. I mean, I desperately wanted it to be all about her, because then maybe I could fix her or get her the help that she needed, right? Well, I knew on some level that I wanted to create an emotionally safe environment, but I'd never experienced one myself where I could express my feelings and be seen, heard, and understood. So, of course, I didn't know how to create one for her. So I really want you to know, if you're getting emotionally triggered by your child's behavior, I doubt that you experienced one either. Because we come to parenting with our family template, and they say it goes back like 7 generations. So if your familial conditioning was one of repressing feelings, especially the difficult ones, then most likely you are unconsciously trying to control your child's expression instead of taking personal responsibility for your part in the dynamic. Well, in Pure Joy, our commitment is to create a safe emotional environment where everyone feels safe enough to express their feelings. So you can imagine in creating a container like this that all those feelings are definitely going to reveal themselves. Now, when you understand that feelings drive behavior, you're going to be more willing to look past the behavior to attend to the big feelings that are arising instead of trying to control the behavior. And this is really hard since most of us were raised to see good behavior as the gold standard in parenting, right? So now you can kind of understand why it's so emotionally triggering when your child acts out. I don't know about you, but I grew up in a really repressed environment around emotions. They weren't accepted in my family, and actually they were looked at as unnecessary and often as a nuisance. There was a true emotional deficit as far back as I can see in my family. I mean, no one wanted to talk about feelings, right? It was all about appropriate behavior to make sure that we look good and that the adults didn't feel discomfort. I mean, as children, we were reflections of our parents' capacity to control their environment and look like good people and not have somebody to blame their feelings on, right? I became determined in my parenting that was going to be different. And yet I had no idea I was going to have to feel all those early feelings that I had learned to repress as a child. In the safe environment that I created, all this rage came to visit. And oh my God, it was so demanding to be seen, heard, and understood. And all I wanted to do was time it out, fix it, change it, or withdraw love, anything I could, because I didn't know how to offer loving kindness to my rage. I mean, it was so intense because I'd had a raging mom and I just wanted it to be done. And I couldn't figure out how to deal with it, and it just got crazier and crazier. until finally I realized that I was going to have to move out of my figuring out head and move down into my heart. And that was even harder because I had all these barriers that I had constructed around my tender, vulnerable heart. And because in my young mind, I concluded that vulnerability was bad and it was going to be counterinstinctual to move towards something that as a child felt so incredibly dangerous. And yet, that's what I had to be willing to do to move. I had to be willing to move toward that, to open the door to creating that safe emotional environment for me and my daughter. So I began to see when I was struggling and acting out that I was trying to protect my young heart, and therefore I couldn't step into my mature heart that I wanted to step into so that I could see my daughter's innocence in her expression. So I created a way to take care of my young heart and to take it to a safe place instead of acting out my pain on my daughter. I created the safe seat process that I teach as a foundational practice, and I began to take myself there every time I felt my big feelings coming up to the surface. And if you don't know anything about the safe seat practice, you can go to my website at purejoyparenting.com and get a 5-day free teaching on the safe seat process. So I encourage you to do that if you're struggling, because it's just like such a great process. And slowly what begins to happen is that your mature heart begins to awaken. I promise you that this is going to happen. I mean, I've been working with this for years, and I've worked with hundreds of families. And even though it takes a lot of time and commitment, it really is possible to offer yourself that loving kindness that you so desperately are looking for from your child. You can meet your deep vulnerability with loving kindness. And what begins to happen is you'll open to the gifts that you've been longing to share with you and your child. So take heart. I promise you the challenge is worth it. I've worked with enough folks, including myself, and we're a little bit on the other side of the intensity. So as you learn to tolerate that intensity and stay in your mature heart, things begin to get better. And you have these like sweet little moments of nectar that are, in my experience, are beyond the beyond. So if you're struggling right now and you're listening in and it feels like you're never going to get through this and you just want to quit and stop it all and leave, right? Just give it all up. Hang in there. And just make sure that you get the support you need to keep moving forward. It felt like such a big burden for me. So that's why I started creating Pure Joy parenting groups, so we could come together and carry that burden together, right? Because it wasn't so heavy when I could share that burden and realize that other parents were struggling as much as I was. And then I could begin to show them this process and show them that there was another way. Things began to get easier and easier. So I like to say to myself and to others, let's grow ourselves up and change the world. And that means more to me right now than ever because of the times that we're living in. So I support you in reaching out. If you want to connect, we have lots of parents. You can always connect on the Pure Joy Parenting Practice page. That's a free group that I share. And also you can always reach out directly to me if you'd like to find out how to connect with others. All right, lovies, have a great one. On October 6th, listen in to my talk on healthy boundaries and big feelings with Jason and Cecilia at the free online Happily Family Conference. You'll find the link in the show notes. If you want to learn more about the Safe Seat, download my free 5-day instructional course at purejoyparenting.com.